Alright my friends, it's Krebs and welcome to a special edition of the Space Engineers Project. Realism mode is out in Space Engineers, one of the most anticipated features of this game apart from multiplayer. Everyone has been looking forward to this and it's actually just come out, so thank you devs for your hard work and progress. It's just absolutely awesome. Now, I know there's a video out right now that shows everything about the Realism mode, and it's actually on the Space Engineers official YouTube channel. However, I thought I would go through it with you guys myself, but also talk about things that weren't actually mentioned in the video, but the devs wrote on the dev blog, and they're quite important features as well. So, we'll start off by going to a new world. I mean, the whole idea about Realism mode is that it's basically the opposite of creative mode. It takes a whole lot longer to build things, and there's death. You need construction components, and you get those construction components from mining the necessary ores from asteroids. And so that's the whole idea behind Realism mode, and it also brings up a whole bunch of ideas and things that you could possibly do in the future when you're trying to like play game modes or roleplay servers, because there's an actual emphasis on the importance of minerals or construction objects or whatever, and losing a ship is a whole lot more important than losing a ship in, say, creative mode that you can make in seconds or copy and paste. You can't do that in Realism mode. So, big anticipated feature here. Let's go ahead and speak about what we can expect. So, when you go to creating custom world, everything has changed now. You've got these scenarios and a bunch of new features over here. The scenarios are basically different ways you can play Realism mode, essentially. I guess you could do creative mode as well, but they were introduced in this patch. So you got Easy Start 1, which gives you 1 large ship and 2 small ship. Easy Start 2, several large ships and small ships. And I tried out this Easy Start 2, and some of the large ships aren't actually completed, so they're actually like in the middle of construction. And actually one of them is one of the ships that was shown in the background. You know, when they're using the welding tool and they're constructing it? At least in the old background, looks like they changed it recently. That's one of the ships that you can construct. There's Lone Survivor, so you got an abandoned asteroid, no ships, and you just have to build from scratch. Asteroids, you start in a rescue ship, which is something that we're going to talk about in an asteroid belt. And you've also got 2 platforms, multiplayer world, and an empty world, which you can do. Oh, and a crash red ship. So I guess this gives a bit of a background story. You're in a crash red ship into an asteroid, and you just gotta work your way from there, I guess. So on the right hand side, you got all of these things. They were speaking about like the maximum amount of objects. This is something you can set. They're saying anything above 64 starts lagging in the game, and I tried something like, I don't know, like 200 and something like that. Now we got about 45 frames per second, which isn't actually that much on my system, because I have a really high-end computer. I'm talking about, like, you know, the latest graphics card, GTX 780 Ti, and some really derpy, really good processor as well. So I'm running on some pretty high specs, and unfortunately, if you're trying to go into a game and imagine, you know, having infinite objects and whatnot, unfortunately, it's not really there. You can't have infinite objects because these things are actually going to be calculated by the game, and so that's why it takes up a toll on the resources in your computer. But I'm hoping that eventually it'll be optimized someday. Maybe they could take out stuff that's insignificant and just have the stuff that is significant calculated, or maybe they can make stuff like temporarily there, but as soon as nobody's around it, then the calculations with it is going to stop, and then it's only loaded back in when somebody's actually near it. I don't know, something like that to maybe ease the load on servers. Now, something that I noticed was when you're trying to make a room, you can still only have a maximum of 16 people, unfortunately. So you won't have massive roleplay servers yet, but this is actually something that I mentioned in the dev blog. They're going to they're gonna actually stop with the work on Realism mode right now, and they're gonna finish the work on the multiplayer, because what they've done is they built multiplayer, they've done a bunch of work on it, but now they're actually gonna stop, continue to work with the multiplayer, stop whatever they were doing with Realism, because Realism is out in pretty good form, actually, pretty good shape and form, and they just need to solidify the multiplayer so that everything's synced up and there's not going to be any issues, because at the moment there are quite a few issues. So apart from that, you can also select the asteroid amounts from normal to large to extreme over here, and this just varies the amount of large and small asteroids. And as you can see, extreme is only for 64-bit computers only. You also got these other options that you had previously, like auto healing. That only takes place in realism because you have death in realism, and so auto healing is just, and you automatically heal on up whenever you're outside of when you're not receiving injuries. Okay, so if you're like standing still or just not falling from height or anything like that. But yeah, we'll expand on that in just a moment. So what I'm gonna do is let's jump on into like the biggest one. So several large ships and whatnot. Actually, are we gonna go into that one? No, we're gonna go into Easy Start 1 because I found some resources, and I think it's gonna be kind of important when we talk about resources. So let's turn this up to realistic times 10. And by times 10, it means just everything, like the capacity that you can hold things, like inventories is 10 times bigger. It's 10 times less resources to make things. So this is just to give us an idea of actually what we're going through with realism mode and whatnot. So we spawned out here. This is very familiar atmosphere of what we're used to. You know, there's two ships over there, the big red, and we've also got these outdoor components. But there's a lot that has subtly changed. So for example, you've got all this stuff over here. Hello. You've got uranium ore, which is actually your energy ore. You've got gold ingots. You've also got bulletproof glass. Don't know what that does. That's probably just a component for construction. But one immediate change that you guys should take a note of is in the bottom left. Take a look at that. You've got energy, and it's slowly going down. Just from me standing still, it's going to take up energy. And depending on what I'm doing, I use up more energy. So running looks just about the same, but using my jetpack, I'm going to start using more energy. Now, ooh, I don't want to fall too much because they've got height damage now. Take a look at this. Yeah, my health just went down. As you can see, it went from 100 to 89%. Now, what do you do if your health goes down? Well, if you've got auto healing, it's going to come back by itself. But to get it back up, you got to go to a medical room. And look at this. Health is being used. So energy is going to be really, really critical in realism mode. And they were emphasizing this in the tutorial by the Space Engineers devs. Energy is important. If you don't have energy on your man, for example, then you can't use your jetpack. You just simply run out. And so what if you're in the middle of space and you have no energy? Well, you can't go anywhere because your jetpack won't work, and your life systems inside your suit aren't going to work anymore either, and you're just going to go through a painful and slow death. If that happens, you can actually suicide by pressing this backspace button, and you get the option to suicide. More on that very soon. But as you can see over here with the medical room, it heals you, but it also consumes energy. And this means that every single component on the ship, whether that be the refinery, the disassembler, the lights or whatnot, the thrusters, the nuclear reactor, whatever component, it draws energy. And you need to have uranium ore inside the nuclear reactor. So let's go over to the inventory of the nuclear reactor. You'll see that has uranium ingots. And these are ingots that you actually get from refining down uranium ore inside your refinery. And you get these uranium ingots, and then you put them into the nuclear reactor, blah, blah, blah. And that powers on everything that you need for essential life. So let's go on over to a small ship over here, and if you haven't already noticed that there's a slight difference between these ships. They've converted one of them into a mining ship, and the reason why is I'll show you, because you've got three tools here: the welder, the grinder, and the hand drill. Oop, shit, I put it into the wrong slot. And I'm gonna go through them in turn. But for example, if I bring out my hand drill and we go out next to the asteroid, it has a small ore detector inside of it, and so I can see the iron and the silver and however far away the nickel is, 20 odd meters. Everything seems to be out into the inside of the asteroid. It has a small ore detector, so if I want to start reaching that ore, I have to start drilling away. But you know, this is going to take me ages to get into the middle of there, and so this is why they've built this ship with drill on it. So let's go inside of the ship. And as you can see, everything is powered off. It has it doesn't actually say how much energy it has at the moment. It has no power. Okay, but I turn it on, and the fuel time, it's just calculating. It has 2 days worth if I'm standing still. But the moment I start moving, watch this, 23 minutes worth if I'm moving forward. And just depending on what I'm doing, like if I'm going up or down, it draws different amounts of fuel depending on how much thrusters are being used and whatnot. Oh shit. And so let's take a look at how this thing is to actually drill. So we bring this drill down. Now let's go drilling. Yeah, it doesn't seem to be too bad on the fuel time. But I imagine this would be a lot quicker to drill out into, like, you know, the iron at the center of this asteroid or whatever. It didn't seem that fast, but maybe eventually it would get caught out. The ship would get caught inside the asteroid, but apparently it's supposed to be faster. And so that's what you got. You got fuel time on the ship as well. Once the fuel runs out, that's it. That is it. You can't use your ship anymore. And so now when it comes to actually like using a ship or the structural integrity of a ship, well, let's go on to the construction, let's say. So we've gone out into the asteroid, we've gotten our components and whatnot. Now it's time to go ahead and actually build stuff. We got to take our components, our ore and whatnot, and we got to refine it down, because we can't just go out and build whatever what we want inside our toolbar over here like we can in creative. We can't just drag and drop and we instantly got it. As you can see, we've got two different things. So for a light armor block, and mind you, this is in 10 times mode, so it's a lot cheaper to build stuff. It shows us how much we require of steel plate to put down a light armor block. For a large ship, so a large block, it's going to be 25 steel plates. For a small one, it's only going to be 1 steel plate. And yada yada yada. We could go through every single component, and I'll show, like, for thruster, how many steel plates and construction components, the thruster components, the large steel tubes it's going to take. And it seems like for a small thruster for a large ship, it actually needs an additional large steel tube as well for that. So varying degrees of what you need of components to actually construct stuff, from a small ship to a large one. And that's just already, when you're thinking about the potential of weighing your options. Can I build a small ship? Can I build a large ship? Is a large ship going to be more valuable than the small ship? You can already start imagining what it's going to mean in realistic mode, in realism mode, with all this stuff. So this map, I chose it because you've got these extra ores here, but also in the cargo container, if you check out the inventory, it's got all this extra stuff. And again, we're going to go through it in time. But when you got your ore, you got to take it to the refinery. And sorry, I've got the autosave on. You got to take it to the refinery over here. And if you go to the production line and you want to build something, all you do is you drag and drop over. Actually, you don't even drag and drop. You just click it, and it shows exactly how much iron, for example, you need to make this metal grid. Now, these are for components. If you want to just build something like automatically, it'll show you what you need. So say if I want to build a Gatling gun, it will take, and I click it, it will show all the components to make that. All right, and so I need those components before I can actually make that Gatling gun. All right, and so in order to make the components, I need the essential ores and whatnot to do it. I don't remember if you can actually skip the step, like if you've got all the ores, can you just automatically, you know, place them down and then it'll automatically produce the steel plates and construction components and whatnot by itself? I don't know. Maybe it can. That's just me having a wee wonder or a thought in my head. I think it can. I think all this is that all of these are made of components, and so when you press it down, it just shows all the components, and if you have the necessary ore to build these things, then you just drop it on down and it'll produce it. Now that's assembling process. You also have the disassembling process. So you could also take this, say for example, you destroy an enemy ship, and this is where it becomes really awesome. You destroy an enemy ship, you've captured it, you could tow it back to your disassembling point. You know, use the landing gear on your active ship, tow it back to port, and you can use your grinder tool, which I'll show you, to take these individual components, put it inside the production queue, and disassemble it into whatever fragments that you want. And so then you can recycle it and use it for your own ship. That is absolutely awesome. So that is the refinery. You've also got the assembler over here. And oh crap, I think I've gotten things a little bit confused. Hope not anyway. Because what's happened here, we've got the assembler. what's happened here is that we've got the assembler hooked on up to the refinery, and they're hooked on up directly from the doors. If the doors weren't actually there, then you'd have to move, you know, from the refinery over to the assembler and whatnot. So you get the ingots that you need from the refinery, which, you know, it bores down the ore into the ingots, and the ingots are used in the assembler to make the parts that you need. And once you've got that, last but not least, then you have to construct stuff. So, say for example we want to build something. Well, we're going to have to start off with, say, like a small ship. And this is where it gets cool. If we want to build the landing gear down, we gotta rotate it. But look at this. It's rotating all the way around really smoothly. It's not like, you know, it rotates up and down in just one sort of, you know, set defined angle or whatnot that we've been used to. It can rotate all the way around 360 and just looks awesome. You got really good customizability there. So you just can put it down freely into space, or you can put it down like this. But as you can see, we need a few things. We need a steel plate, a motor, large steel tube, and a construction component in order to put one down. So we got to go over to our cargo container. So imagine, if you will, we've got all the ore, we refined it down, we assembled it into the components that we need, and we just mystically get... I can't even remember what we needed. Small steel tube or something like that. Let me just remember what we've got to get. Small ship. Steel plate motor. I'm not even going to remember all this stuff. Steel plate motor. Let's start off with that, because my memory is so terrible. And by the way, it's not a small steel tube. We need a large one. I'm not even sure if we're going to have that. We got it. Large steel tube. Motor. What else do we need? I can't even remember already. Let's check. Small ship. Steel plate and construction component. I can remember that. Steel plate and construction component. Here we go. Steel plate and construction components. So we've got that in our inventory now. As you can see... Where the hell is it? I can't even freaking see it. Here we go. If we press K, we can see in our inventory that we've got all of this stuff. So, now we can actually put down a small ship. Ta-da! Take a look at that. It says green. And we can put it down. And now there is the small ship, my friends. Now, the question is, do we have to construct this? Yes, we do. In fact, we do. So, I might as well go on to the step. Now, in realism mode, you have to construct things. So, you're going to use our welding tool to do that. And as you can see, in the right-hand side, you've got a progress bar that shows all of the components that are being constructed, and once all those components are constructed, then the landing gear has full structural integrity. But you notice how there's a red bar in the middle? Once it gets to that point, that means it's functional. So, okay, well, I guess it's just gonna skip right on through. But that's because I think we're in 10 times mode. Maybe it goes faster. It's because it's the landing gear. I don't know. But let's try building a small armor block here, and let's build. And as you can see, it's building all the way through, and there you go, the block is placed down. Now let's try building a small reactor, for example. It's got this sort of hollowed out shape, and as you can see, it's got all these different things. So let's try building the construction component. We don't have a metal grid, so unfortunately we can't continue with the construction of this. Now, what's really nice is that we can also disassemble things. So with our grinder tool, we can start bringing it back on down, and we should get the components back, which is great. So as I was saying about that enemy ship that we destroyed, we captured, we towed it back to port, we could grind it on down into the components that we need, and then we could just reassemble it into whatever the hell we want, which is awesome. So converting the enemy's ships into our needs, that is absolutely cool. So that is the main stuff about energy and building and whatnot. You've also got a few different things, like also with the what do I want to say, with the ammo, with the ammunition supplies. Let me go grab some ammunition here, and I'll show you guys what I mean. So let's put this on back. Let's also put this on back, There's an ammo belt here, and there's also some rockets that we can use as an example. So let's go over to the small fighter. Now, initially, this fighter actually isn't going to have any ammo inside of it. We've got to load it. So over here, there's actually 2 points on the Gatling gun that you can access. You put the ammo belt into that, and then also on the front of the missile launcher, you can access that. You can put the missiles down in there. So we head inside the cockpit, we power everything on. Let's go put our Gatling gun and rocket launcher down here and take a look at this. Because I only put ammo into the right gun, only the right one is being used. And it won't fire forever, we'll eventually run out of ammo, but as you can see there's actually a bit of recoil. We're being spun to the right because of how this gun works. There you go, we've run out of ammo. Alright, and we could do the same thing with our rocket launcher. We only have 4 rounds of it, so here we go. There goes the rocket launcher. And no more. That was 4 rounds, that was it. Unfortunately, they didn't really fix the fire rate of it. It goes really rapidly, but definitely the ammo count is the limiter, if anything, at the moment. Just the rate of fire. If you have all the ammo in the world, the rate of fire just will be absolutely killer. And that was only 1 rocket doing damage. Imagine many more. So that's the ammo count, and again, if you want to make ammo, you have to actually build it in the assembler, and you're going to need the necessary ingots to actually do that. Now, one last thing I want to highlight, and I think I've covered pretty much everything. The one last thing that I want to highlight is also death, alright? So, say we run out of, okay, I guess we gotta save. Say we want to kill ourselves, what's going to happen is we're going to die and you get this effect over here, but we're going to spawn at the medical bay because that is our medical bay. This is attached to our Steam ID. This is attached to our character ID. Every player has their own medical bay. Now what happens if the medical bay is damaged? So say for example it's not in functional state. So you see it's dropped down below the red part, the red line, and now it's no longer functional. What happens if you don't have a functional medical bay? Well, we die, and we're gonna respawn in what do they call this? A survivor ship or escape ship or something like that. I can't remember the exact term for it. But apparently, what it does is it comes with all the components that you need for survival. So you could fill up all your energy by simply just sitting inside the cockpit here. As you can see, our suit runs out of energy. It refills automatically if we go into the cockpit, or I believe we could also go to the medical bay and it will also refill when we press T, along with our health being refilled from the medical bay. But this ship has all the necessary stuff that we need for survival. It has the refinery and whatnot out at the back, the assembler, and yeah, as you can see, this is what it looks like. And we just fly on over to our platform. It looks like it's far away, but we speed up really quickly with this thing. And now the interesting thing that I was thinking about this ship, and that I think they might have overlooked and maybe they'll fix in the future, is that what if you die, you know, you just lost your amazing ship to the enemy, they've got your ship. What if you die and, you know, you got nothing left, or so you think you have nothing left, but then you get this whole ship for free? Well, I mean, you could just recycle this. You could just grind it on down, as you can see, you could just grind it on down to whatever. You get all the components, and essentially you just got all these components for free. You didn't have to even go to the asteroid and mine it. So unfortunately that's something that they've overlooked, and I hope that they're going to fix in the future. But I think that pretty much covers everything. There was something else that I think I wanted to talk about. Ah yeah, about space engineer survival. The 2 survival points is energy and health. That is it. There's not going to be any food or water or anything like that. They just wanted to focus on the pure aspects of space and engineering and whatnot. And there's actually one more thing I wanted to talk about as well. And it's actually just on my mind, but I just skipped over. Ah, here we go. I remember. Thrusters. Thrusters now do damage. I'm not sure if they actually do it right now, but they mentioned that they want to do it, and I don't know if it's going to be in a future update. But thrusters will do damage if they're in contact with other thrusters. So, did you ever try to make, like, you know, those thrusters next to each other in a row or hidden on the inside? Well, that's not going to work too well. You need to have space in front of that thruster area, or else it just simply will not work. You'll damage the thrusters that are behind each other, and they're gonna cease to function. So that pretty much covers everything, guys, that I can remember anyway. But yeah, I was thinking that we would maybe try to build something, but you know, who cares? I think we'll come up with some more things in future episodes with the Space Engineers project, trying to come up with really efficient designs, especially with the limitations on how many blocks we can use. We might try to do, like, you know, 200 block challenges to build a spacecraft or something like that. We'll try it out anyway. But anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed this, and most importantly, oh my gosh, are you excited about realism mode as I am? Are you just as excited? Awesome stuff. Anyway, until the next episode, this is Krebs, and I'll catch you guys later.